Kia ora and welcome to the CAN podcast. I'm the host Warwick Slow and today's guest is the Managing Director of Opes Mortgages, Peter Norris. You might recognise Peter's name from being on the top advisor charts for years, and at the ripe age of 34 years young, he's been consistently up on the top charts as well as being a great advisor in all accounts in terms of his customer outcomes, the reviews he gets and his feedback in the industry. He's a really open and honest guy. I love this chat. And even if you're not a mortgage advisor, there's some amazing takeaways in here in terms of how to deal with customers and getting great outcomes for them. If you enjoy this podcast, it goes a long way if you can share it with others that might get some value from it. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube, give us a subscribe or follow if you haven't already. It goes a long way to helping us grow and invest further into this resource. Otherwise, let's jump into it. Peter Norris, thank you so much for joining us here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
It's been a long time coming. I've always seen you from not from the shadows, but in the distance. And even before I'd even met you, you had a bit of a reputation.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I was coming here this morning thinking, finally cracked it, finally been invited on, finally made it.
Forget about being on the top advisor list, the amount of lending you've done, working with some of the biggest companies in the industry. Making onto the CAN podcast.
Yeah, there we are. I've done it. Yeah.
That's when you call your wife and you're like, babe, we made it.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what I will do after this.
Well, depending on how well it goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
I might grill you. But I think you've got a long CV in terms of your experience in the industry. BNZ, I think you went up as a mortgage advisor with another company, joined Squirrel, you're a director with Lateral Partners with Ben Pauly before joining as a managing director of Opes Mortgages. I guess every part of the journey is built you to where you are today. What do you think's been the key driver to your success?
You know what? I was walking the dog this morning thinking, what are the questions that I'm going to get asked? And that probably wasn't actually one of them. Key drivers for success. It's been 15 odd years when you add in banking and then out to brokering as well. And the underlying reason for me doing what I do has always been about helping people have more choices, right? When you grow up with less choices, I'm not saying a lot of people have it worse, but when you grow up with less choices, you want to make sure that as you get older, you do things that ensure that you have more choices, and that there's the old financial freedom, that sort of stuff. It's different for everyone, but for me, it's all about just choices, the freedom to being able to choose. And that is, genuinely, as corny as it sounds, what I am passionate about with every client. And so what drives me is the ability to do that for clients. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about working with property investors, because I see that as a really tangible way to help people have more choices. And so, I fist pump now when I get an approval, just like I did back in 2008, day one at BNZ. It is literally no different for me. In fact, it's probably even more now than it was then.
And I know it's easy to say things, but I mean, in doing research for this episode, what you said there stacks up across, recommendations on even your LinkedIn page, Google reviews. Even I spoke to April, who you work with at Opes, about you, and I asked what is it about Peter, and she said I could quote this in terms of your success, but she said he can't say no to people easily. He'll help people that weren't clients to start with, even when he's not making money on it, because it's the right thing to do. Then they tell his friends, and everyone comes to him.
Yeah, well, that's just I think the way to behave everywhere in life, not just in work, right? And I think we're lucky enough in our industry to be doing something that has a real impact on people's lives, and that can be positive and negative. So it shows sort of the importance of what we do, and it's hard to not turn away a client when it looks a bit tricky or it looks a bit hard, or maybe there's no money in it or anything like that. But I think I'm a big fan of what goes around comes around, and if you do what's right for a client, then they'll know people that you can help out.
That's right. And it's a small country.
Yeah.
And I see all the time on the advisor Facebook page, a lot of advisors have differing views on things like, what happens when there's a clawback? How do you treat the client in that particular scenario? What do you do if the client comes to you and they just want a small top up that might not mean a lot of, revenue for you, but it's all those little things that, bigger than just helping with that particular deal, the experience they get might mean a bigger fish down the line.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that both of those points. Like, to be honest, my team actually get pretty frustrated with me at not saying no to those sorts of things because there is, there are a lot of clients to look after, and we can't be all things to all people, and so we need to be really, really focused. And I think one of the things I've had to learn in support of my team is saying yes to the right things and no when it's appropriate. And I'm lucky enough to have a big enough team now that the ones that are a little bit smaller, I can pass off to other advisors, so they still get looked after, which is great. The clawback thing's an interesting one. I'm just all about fairness. I'm all about clients or anyone just getting a fair run, and I think that's part of the reason I say yes to clients who, to April's point, where maybe there's no money in it, but I see that actually they've had some bad advice or maybe been led down the wrong path, and that for me that's just not fair, and so it comes back to I can do my bit to make sure that they are getting back on the right path. Clawbacks is the old debate. For me, it's not something I charge, but it is very much in our scope of advice because it protects my team. But it's just, for me, it's not.
I think with that one, it's always like, it depends.
Yeah. There's so many grey areas in that.
Yeah, and it's always got to be fair and reasonable. But some customers, they're doing it for the wrong reason, but some genuinely, they might need to because of a separation or business hasn't been performing well. That's getting them out of a jam. Kind of feels
absolutely.
Slapping them with a couple of grand bill at the end of it seems.
100%.
I asked April a couple other questions as well, and I said, "What does Pete like to work with?" And look, the question I asked before about,
she would have said phenomenal, right? She said that. She said that about 30 times in the interview, didn't she?
But she did actually say it to me after the podcast episode we did, but I didn't even pick up on it until she pointed it out. But it's always like, you're always your worst enemy when it comes to critiquing.
I tried to say to her
yourself.
this morning, what should be my catchphrase for the
phenomenal.
Yeah.
But no, because like the question I asked before about your success, it was slightly loaded because I feel like I've got a good understanding, but I really want to dive in deep as to how you get there. But what April said was he's irritatingly calm. Like, he has no right to do that much lending, and with all the chaos that comes around it, I've never heard him snap at an admin person, even for a decent mistake. Is that true?
Well, I hope so.
No, sorry, the admin snapping part.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Good on you, man.
I do hope so. I'm not. Other than I hope so. It's a difficult one to answer because at the end of the day, my role in the business is more than just the advisor to the support people, right? I'm managing director. I'm one of the business partners across the group. The success of the whole entire group is hugely important to me, and how we treat our people is part of our success. And we all have bad days, and we all have good days, and I don't know. It's just I take a lot of personal responsibility in the success of the business and the amount of workload that sort of the team's under. And if I then throw some stress at them from my own inability to react to something, or I snap at them for a simple mistake, then there's more consequences to that. So
an even bigger picture than just your own internal team.
Much bigger picture. Yeah.
The way you deal with assessors or BDMs, I think on the whole, advisors are pretty good dealing with them. But I know that there's advisors out there that their first reaction is to snap.
Yep.
And all it does is push people further into their shell.
Yeah. The assessor one is another important one. And for any new advisor, one of the things I would say is something to learn is understand that the assessor is human as well, and that you need them on your team. And I actually learnt this it's not always been rosy, right? Like I learnt this through trial and error, actually, and I remember Sharon at Sharon at ANZ, the BDM. Her and I, in all honesty, didn't have a great relationship 6-7 years ago, mainly because I was younger and probably did snap a couple of times at assessors. And I left Squirrel and went out and started the new business, and Sharon came across as the BDM, and I reached out to her and we grabbed coffee, and full credit to Sharon, just called me out on it. And I mean, moving forward to now, we have a great relationship, and she's a fantastic BDM who I work a lot with. But it was her ability just to say, you know what, like, you can't do that. That actually, and me to listen to it and go, you know what, I agree. And I probably always knew it, but you know, when you're young and things are a little bit different, you maybe react. And so you fast forward to now, and I think the importance of looking after assessors and making sure that you thank them when they do something good as much as challenge them when they aren't necessarily doing what you agree with is really important.
And have you taken those lessons into parenthood?
Yeah, I try to. Yeah, parenting's, I think it's probably the hardest job on the planet, to be honest with you. But yeah, I do try to take that same approach in parenting.
And how do you juggle family, running a business, being a top mortgage advisor, managing a team? There's just so many areas to your remit at the moment. How do you structure it?
That's a good question. I don't really know. To be honest, I just go with it. I do whatever I can. I probably overstretch a little bit in terms of trying to fit it all in. But I am committed to being both successful in business, looking after my clients, and being a great dad. To be honest, the person who probably pays the biggest price on that is the wife, but she's fully supportive as well, so that's good. But now, look, I love it. I love being busy. I love having a lot to do. I love needing to be that person for the guys at work and for the kids, and it just works, right? You just wake up a little bit earlier if you need to, or well, to be fair, I don't go to bed late, and that's just a non-negotiable for me. But the early wake-ups, you just do. You fit in. You do what you can.
What time's bedtime?
9:00.
Dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in bed by 9.
No.
Pretty much without fail.
No doom scrolling in bed? No
nah,
emails?
Definitely not. No chance. Don't look at my phone in bed.
Wow.
No chance.
That's impressive.
But the phone is there. I'm actually looking at getting rid of it out of the room. But for now, it's there because it acts as an alarm clock. But no, not in bed.
I've talked about this with my wife. Should we just leave our phones out of the room? Probably for more my benefit than hers. But there's so many times I'm lying in bed and I'll have an idea or I'll think of something and I'll write it into my notes. I am lying a little bit most of the time. It's just going through Reddit or Instagram. But, like that's the way I kind of justify it to myself.
Yeah, look, I mean, we're all guilty of that. It's for me, it's not some sort of I need to have no phone in bed because otherwise it ruins your sleep or anything. It's probably less deliberate than that. For me, it's just to be honest, that time of the night after a full day, I'm out. It's time for sleep. Sleep's important, and so and I'm an early riser, so just get to sleep.
What time are you getting up?
4:30, 5 o'clock.
Didn't expect to be asking these types of questions.
Yeah.
Mate,
it's not what I thought either.
Yeah, this is like breakfast radio hours. You're like, geez.
Yeah.
Mate, the sparrows are still waking up at that time.
Yeah, it's all good. Got to get up before the kids get up.
Yeah, true. I've got one on the way. So
good.
even when this gets released, probably will be an old man.
Still on the way by the time it gets released?
Yeah, should be relatively soon.
Yeah, good.
But
got to keep the phone on you.
Yeah.
Just in case you get the call.
You never know.
Yeah.
But it's getting up before them. I feel like that'd be the alarm clock for you. But
yeah,
I feel like when I'm awake at 4 a.m, it's usually because you haven't gone to sleep, and you have that moment where like the sun's starting to rise, the birds are chirping, and usually it's a time for soul searching. But for you, you're just starting your day, having your first of 4 cups of coffee.
Yeah. Getting into it. Yeah, no, to be fair, I hold off on the coffee until 5. I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like I can't turn the machine on until 5.
Because the other thing, I asked what your secret was to April, and she said competitive, tenacious, and he can't function without coffee.
Yeah. I haven't tried, so I don't even know the answer to that.
True.
Yeah.
Well, you need one of those cups that's like, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee.
Yeah.
But most people aren't awake before 5 o'clock anyway, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. I think I can function without coffee. I just really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a habit.
Just enjoy the taste.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you've been a big writer across every business that you've been at. Opes is a marketing machine. We've spoken about this with April on the previous podcast. You know, all the content they're producing, it obviously is going to bring leads to you. What proportion now do you find is like your own network and self-gen leads versus the leads that are brought in by Opes?
Yeah, I mean, we track this frequently, mostly because there's been times over the last sort of 6 to 12 months where we've toyed with the idea of, do I just deal with Opes clients? You know, to give them, because there's so many of them, to really focus on just giving them the best possible outcome. And as much as I say, yeah, I should do that, it's near enough impossible. Same for April, you know, the amount generated, self-generated over time just continues to grow and grow and grow. So I don't know, I think it's somewhere around 50-50 at the moment. About 50% of my business comes direct from Opes, from the group, and then 50% would be self-gen just from, your usual sources.
So you've obviously you had a bit of experience prior to joining Opes. Like, what did the interview process look like when joining them? Because they were already an established business and you were coming into it. How's that approach?
Yeah, look, so the way I ended up there, which I suppose is a convoluted way of answering your question, is when I was at Squirrel, one of the guys that started Opes, who's not there anymore, just knocked on the door. He was a young guy, he's a young sales guy, knocked on the door at Squirrel and wanted to build a relationship. Was because Opes wasn't the juggernaut that it is today. It was 3 or 4 guys in a little office in Christchurch, and they were just peddling investment property to, sitting in people's houses trying to sell the investment property dream. And so they were hugely reliant on mortgage broker relationships. And so they knocked on the door. I liked Vinny. I thought, he's a good guy. I'm a big believer that you do business with people you like. That's why I don't like the BNIs or the real estate coffees or all that sort of stuff, because unless you like the person you're doing business with, then you're unlikely to continue it. So I really liked Vinny. We got along, ended up meeting Andrew, and then we just spent a lot of time together, and we referred a lot of business together. We became friends as opposed to just, colleagues or referral partners. And that just kind of grew, and then, that I was one of the advisors that they would refer to. And then when I was toying with the idea of leaving Squirrel, I went to Andrew and I got his view, and ultimately what I wanted to do was go and be the mortgage advisor within Opes because they were growing. But at that point, timing wasn't right. And Ben and I decided, obviously, to go and set up Lateral. And then I just had this, it just kept coming back that there's something that can be done. I'm passionate about property investment. I really like what the Opes guys are doing. We should do this. And so then when the timing was right, I moved across, and it wasn't really an interview process, to be honest. It was a lunch at a Mano. Great spot. A lunch at a Mano that turned into, timing is right. Let's do it. And so me and my wife flew down to Christchurch and caught up with Andrew and Ollie and went through what it could look like. And then for me, it was a no-brainer. And looking back, it's the best thing I've ever done in business.
Wow. And prior to this, I remember I hadn't really heard. I don't think I'd met you. I knew of your name because
prior to this podcast, or
sorry, I've met you many times. Sorry, prior to the story you were describing, but I distinctly remember when you were with Lateral, and this is when I'm relatively new to trail, and I was like a BDM getting out there trying to do my bit, and this guy one day he goes, "Well, I know if Peter Norris can write the volumes that he does using it, it must be good." I was like, who the hell is this Peter Norris guy? So I looked you up and then saw the journey across to Catalyst Financial, which is now Opes. And it's amazing to see the journey that you've gone through. And I can see each year you're climbing up that top advisor charts. I know you're competitive. You must be aiming for that number one spot.
Do you know what? No matter how much I tell myself that the numbers don't matter, I think, and you know, the same goes for April. April tries to tell me she's not competitive as well, but the reality is we are. And I don't think you can get to the volume that we get to without having an eye on that, you know, without being genuinely competitive about it. And all of the others that are in that list of top advisors, whether it be number 1, number 20, number 100, are all competitive and thinking about the numbers. So yeah, it matters to me. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. But it's not the reason I get out of bed. It's the reward, you know, the self-acknowledgement for the hours put in, for the work put in, to see that, hey, it's worth it. And to know that, you know, like if I look at the volume, the number that really matters to me is not 200 million of settlements. It's 350 individual client settlements. You know, that's the number that really matters to me, because the more of those, the more impact I've made, the more clients that have choices. And so, yeah, like I think volume just comes with that, but it's not. Yeah, I'm super competitive, but it's not the.
That's right. It's like a periphery motivation, you know, to go that little extra mile.
Yeah. I don't know that anyone listening to this will believe me on that, but it's true.
No, I mean, it's the same, you know, I'm doing a sales type role as well.
Yeah.
And there's times where, you know, maybe there's one that's like, you know, borderline and got to make a call whether it's going to be a good fit or not. And as much as I love numbers and winning, sometimes you just got to say, you know, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think that has to be the difference between being, you know, top or, you know, wherever you are on the list. So it's something that over time you have to look at how you can gamify the process. When I did this interview with Blandon from Mortgage HQ, he talked about how that was like a big part of him as a mortgage advisor, just gamifying the process. It was so funny because after he said that episode and released it, there was someone who came in, they just started their own business, joined Trail, and after about 2 or 3 weeks, they were saying, you guys have really set it up so it's like a game. I was like, oh, true. Maybe that's how it was designed. Like, do you find to a degree you've set up the way you give advice almost like you're competing with, maybe not with other people in the company, but, you know, with other advisors?
No, only to the point of actually thinking about whether I'm competing with other advisors or not. I'm sure as heck not feeling like I'm competing with other advisors within the business. What I do feel like is I get an opportunity in my role and with the reputation that I have to be the example. I think that the further up the charts you get, the more people are watching what you do and making sure that you're doing the right thing. You know, if you're doing 300 deals a year, then chances are people are having a look. But the ones that matter to me the most are the ones that are in my team, and so being the example for them and making sure they do the right things. And the only way I can expect them to do that is for me to do the right things. And so it's not so much competitive with other advisors. In terms of the gamifying process, I agree with Blandon on that. Like, I think there are ways that you can gamify the process, and you can. So I was talking to one of the other directors about this. Like, it's almost reached the point where it's almost robotic, especially with the way that technology's gone, with the way that, you know, we don't do so many face-to-face interviews and client meetings anymore. In fact, very, very few of them. Most of them are on Zoom, and so when you incorporate that technology, and then we also use other tech in our business around like video summaries, and then you've got Trail on it as well, which is just super intuitive. You know, that whole process, being that it is largely almost completely online now, is kind of gamifying it. And that advice piece is the only bit out of it that isn't gamified, and you've got you've got to really that's where the secret sauce is.
That human touch.
Yeah. And so you've got to figure out a way to do that with all the technology.
It's easy to say it, but I really feel like the way you approach advice, and from what I've heard about everybody in the industry, I can see that it is true to the core. And, you know, when you're doing 300 deals a year, like you said, the spotlight does start to be shone upon you. But if you've got an amazing track record of great outcomes for clients, good records, and years of experience, I think all you can do is really set yourself up for success there. And hope you don't cock it up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You're only I was trying to always figure out what to say there. I mean, you're only really as good as your last deal, right? I keep coming back to no deal's worth your career. And you've got to do what's right by the client each and every time, and it's not like you actually can't relax on that. And I think I've gotten more and more focused on that the older I've got, and so that would be, I suppose, another little learning for young advisors, people coming in, because it is a pretty low barrier to entry into this industry, and you are dealing with people's livelihoods when you're dealing with their money, and it's every single client you've got to be on, and every client deserves that full advice piece. And so it's become pretty important to me the older I've got, really, and the more clients you deal with. Is just no client is worth your career.
You're only as good as your last deal is a great one. I think April had one that she said that was, would I do this lending for a family member of mine? You know, and
well, April's big one also is, she wants to be able to look at her husband and know that nothing she's done is going to compromise his future as well, right? And when you do something fringy that you could get caught out on, that ruins your career, it affects more than just you. There's family in there as well. So I really, admire that about her stance on it. And she's like, I think I'm pretty strict on that. Like, she's even more.
Nice. I mean, I've seen it from the aggregation level. It's not that they often pop up, but they do. You do it long enough, you do see them, and you just don't want to put yourself into that type of position, and people do, and it's you're just gutted for them. Like, people make mistakes, and sometimes it might be just like a second of ill judgment that just can take away your career, and any new player, I think, can learn valuable lessons from. They don't have to learn from their mistakes, because in some cases you don't get a second chance, but learn from others, or learn from those who have been in the industry for a long time.
Just do what's right. Like, honestly, it's pretty simple. Just do what's right. You can do what is right, and you can do what is fair, and you can still get deals done that don't look as simple on paper as what you'd hope for. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong by getting those deals done. But yeah, you just got to do what's right.
You've got your fingers in a lot of pies, multiple pies, plural. What's next for you?
Well, I'm really, really happy with where things are. I've had a good spot. I think the last the 15 years of business thus far. Like, I'm 34. My 20s were I didn't get a lot of time to do the things that people in their 20s should do. I got married young, I had kids young, I got divorced young, I did all of the stuff that you shouldn't do in your 20s. And I mean, hindsight's 20/20, right? So you don't know until you look back. And so fast forward to now, it's been a grind to get to the point where I can honestly say it's a good spot. And so what's next for me is honestly just to enjoy it. I really want to enjoy certainly through to 40 to 45, and just build as much as I possibly can then, so that post that I can relax a little bit. I'm also about to have another kid, so that'll be my third. And
prolific.
Yeah, so that'll be that'll be good times. The football boots have been hung up largely, apart from over 35s who keep making the call. But for me, it's just enjoy the next the next 10 years help build this business to as big as we possibly can get it to be, look after as many clients as possible, and then hopefully relax.
Yeah, 45. We'll earmark that as your time to relax, time to go traveling.
Yeah.
See you in a little villa in Tuscany or something like
Yeah,
that.
that sounds perfect.
But it's amazing seeing the journey that not only Opes has gone on, but you have gone on, because I've seen it since I joined the company in the industry. It's impressive. I think the way that you engage with your clients, it's there to be seen across the board. So super valuable podcast today. Some great lessons in there, and really appreciate you giving us your time, as I know you're a busy man.
Nah, I appreciate it. I really appreciate being on it.
Well, we booked this in about 2 months ago, and you did say, book it in advance and I will come. And there was a little part of me this morning that went, I should have followed up to make sure he's coming in. But sure enough, here he was.
It's in the calendar.
Jacked up on 4 coffees. Thank you.
Yeah. No worries. Thanks for having me.